Hi, friends. Another really super weird week of. I think we had one day that was maybe up to about 8 degrees and then one that was 20 degrees, and it's been all over the place. We also had the most incredible overnight storm. We're pretty lucky in the UK, it doesn't normally cause a huge amount of like chaos and disaster, but I've personally never seen lightning like I did a couple of nights ago. It was really just like constant rumbling thunder, insane rain, and then just lightning strike, another second, lightning strike, another second, lightning strike. Yeah, it was incredible. Like, it was just illuminating my room. It woke me up at like 4 in the morning. But anyway, it's so what I'm trying to say, the weather's been all over the place, and so I've had a bit of a mixture again of perfumes because I had the opportunity to wear like a really lovely spring perfume, and then I kind of got thrown back into wearing stuff for colder weather, and then it's just honestly been all over the place. I'm going to start with this one. So you might remember that I smelt this in store and I kind of loved it. I spoke to you about it when I just like sprayed it and tested it out, and then I had a little sample of it, and then I was watching on eBay loads of people who were selling it as a partial bottle, and I managed to nab one because I could never pay full price for these because they're just so expensive. But so this is Diptych. This is Eau Moheli. Moheli. I don't really know how to pronounce that, so please forgive me if I sound extremely British and I'm getting it very wrong. The thing I loved about this when I first smelt it, and what I loved when I also tried out the little sample spray, it's just such an unusual smelling ylang ylang to me, and I really like ylang ylang, but generally my experience with ylang ylang has been that there's often quite a lot of vanilla with it, or it's kind of sort of sharing the space with lots of other florals. And this is a spring summer light, pretty, transparent ylang ylang, and I was like, I don't really feel like I've smelt anything quite like this. There's only one thing that it even slightly reminds me of, which I'll talk to you about in a second. But this is like, yeah, I don't know. I'll read you the notes, but I just sort of fell in love with it. So this is ylang ylang, floral notes, ginger, pink pepper, vetiver, benzoin, patchouli and incense. So I don't get loads of patchouli, I don't get loads of incense. Any benzoin that's in here is incredibly, it must be such a light touch. Same with the vetiver, and for me also the pink pepper, because what I really get here is a very kind of real life, I mean, I don't really know ylang ylang as a real life flower, but what I mean is the difference between like smelling a fresh flower and smelling a perfume version of a flower. And I think one of the things I always really liked about Diptyque, I've always really liked this about them, they're incredibly good at doing really nice, quite natural smelling florals, you know. They're not scared of green notes, they're not scared of leaves, and they don't tend to make things too sweet. So this just smells like how I sort of imagine a ylang ylang flower would actually smell in nature, but then it's got this beautiful ginger running through it, which just, I don't really know how to describe it. It gives it a fruitiness really, and a slight warm spice, but it's so watery. This is the Eau de Toilette. They don't have a perfume version of this, which is good because it's so pretty. And honestly, it doesn't last too badly. It's just like quite a subtle scent. So I think what I said when I first tried this one was that when you first spray it, it might be a little bit indolic, and I didn't find that this time round. But I wonder. I mean, obviously that could just be because my nose is going to be slightly different throughout the month. I'm going to pick different things up. But I think it's because when I first smelt this, it was cold weather. And when I wore this was on the warmer day. And in the warm weather, this was sweetened to a perfect amount, but still fresh, not sickly at all. Some people, I think, would describe this as not having any sweetness, but it definitely does have a little bit of sweetness. I didn't get the same kind of slightly urinal indolic smell when I first sprayed it that I did when I have smelt this and I've worn it in like colder weather. It's just beautiful. So I was very lucky in that I won a bid for this one on eBay. With all the Diptyque things, if you can afford to buy Diptyque, then I think buy Diptyque. They've got really beautiful perfumes. I actually wore another one this week that I'll talk about in a minute. But as you know, I don't like to spend huge amounts of money on perfumes, although what I've realised is that some of the perfumes I wore this week were much more expensive. And honestly, I do think that is partially because most of my favourite floral perfumes, or things that I would consider to be floral, are more expensive. Like, I like Dior Forever and Ever, and I like this one, and I like the Jean Charles Brousseau. I'm just looking at my little display. I do really quite like Dior florals, you see, like the more natural smelling ones. So yeah, I'm not changing my ways, but I do have a couple of things here that are more on the expensive side. But the thing that I was thinking about when I first smelt this one is this. This is Moringa from the Body Shop. This is a perfume that smells a little bit like Ananya. Now, Ananya, I think, was like ylang ylang and tuberose and tons of peach. And it was a really pretty, but really of its time perfume. It's really nice to smell Moringa because it kind of smells like a body lotion version and a slightly less peachy version to me of Ananya. But I struggle with this one because I find it a bit cloying because it's so fruity. But it does kind of have some crossovers with Eau Moheli. I don't know if I'm saying that right. But anyway, so if you like the idea of kind of a not vanillic ylang ylang, and you have to like tuberose, I think, and you have to like peach, this is like a tenner. So it's not exactly the same. If anything, I'd think this one is a bit more obvious when you wear it just because it is so fruity. It's got a syrupy quality to it that this doesn't have. This is like quite, it's all, as the same with a lot of Diptyque, it's almost aquatic in how kind of watery and fresh it feels. This one's a bit thicker because it's definitely got a very syrupy kind of fruity smell, but it has the same kind of like natural smelling actual flower ylang ylang scent to it, I think, but it's matched up with tuberose, so it's slightly different, but it definitely has some crossovers with this. So that would be my affordable alternative, but if you can afford to get hold of this either on eBay or if you are lucky enough to be able to afford to buy Diptyque just at retail price, I really like this perfume. I think it's lush. I think if you like ylang ylang, it's such a beautiful perfume. I'm going to try and position that in a good way. So I went for this little one. This is just another one that I pull out. This is Mon Petit. This is the Eau de Toilette version from Lolita Lempicka. I just pull this one out when I just want something really easy and light and fresh to wear in the morning. It's not necessarily one I would wear out of the house and for a full day because this is a perfume that's designed for kids, basically. These kind of perfumes are really good for people who don't like strong perfumes, or if you work somewhere where you're not really supposed to wear perfumes, you could totally think that this one was like a body lotion or a hair conditioner or some kind of body care. It has that feel about it, and it's incredibly light. It's got notes of anise and marshmallow in the top, and then freesia and orange blossom and linden blossom in the mid, and then the base notes are white musk and confetti, aka sugared almonds. So I think the orange blossom is what's giving this quite a soapy kind of body lotiony feel. It's not too far into the body lotion though, so I can cope with it. But it's got that kind of slight sweet almondy smell. It's got a lot of musk, and for me it's freesia and mainly linden blossom. And it's just, it kind of smells like a wedding, but a very light wedding. Or maybe it smells like a child at a wedding. But it's super pretty. It's not the easiest to find. I got mine from My Origins, which is a French site, I think. Happily, they will send these over to the UK. They will ship to the UK. If you want to look at that website, though, best to do it on a PC or something, like an actual computer, because if you try to look at their web pages, sometimes on mobile phones or on tablets, like it won't translate properly into any of the other languages, so it gets really confusing and you can't really search for things and the web pages don't load properly. So just a little warning. But it's pretty. Alright, on Sunday last week, I just fancied being sweet and girly and pretty and cute. And so I quite often reach for, to be honest, I nearly wore God is a Woman again, but I was like, I'm trying to mix it up. So I wore Thank You Next from Ariana Grande. I have the body sprays of these because they have less of the aroma chemical in that I don't like, which sometimes I'm like, maybe that's amberwood or dreamwood or one of those ones, because I mean, who even knows? I think a lot of chemicals actually smell like tar to me. I don't think it's only one. And I've sort of been learning that different companies give different names to pretty much the same thing, if you see what I mean. So it could just be that all the different houses that are making these perfumes, they all have their own version of the chemical that smells like tar to me. That might be it. But anyway, it's way less noticeable. There's not much of it in these body sprays. So this is why I have the body sprays. I got rid of the perfumes because I just couldn't deal with it. But this one, thank you next. Raspberry and pear in the top, coconut and pink rose in the mid, macarons and musk in the base. It's probably like some kind of raspberry rose macaron, like all in one note, or like coconut and raspberry macaron with rose and pear. But the thing is, if you don't smell that aroma chemical that I don't like, then definitely get the perfume of this, because with the body spray you lose a bit of the kind of jammy, yummy fruitiness that you get. You can still sense that there's a raspberry and a pear, but when you first spray the perfume, it's really, really there. It's very fruity, and then it slowly dries down to smell like this. So yeah, I am a bit sad that I don't get to give that delicious kind of raspberry and pear smell as much in this, but it's still super pretty. So yeah, that was just a nice kind of chill Sunday, just respray it a lot. To be honest, this lasts for ages on my clothes. Like, I'm really aware I'm wearing it all the time. Like, I've kind of been discovering that with body sprays. Obviously, they've got a much kind of higher, like, I think alcohol and water content. So there's not so much perfume, but it does seem to stick really well when it's dispersed on clothes. I think that's what they're designed for. So, oh, okay. So one of my eBay buys, I will be doing a haul video to talk about all the kind of partial bottles I've been buying. So there's just quite a lot of perfumes that I haven't been able to get samples of. I can never smell them in store because they're kind of old, or they're not designer enough, if you see what I mean. Not cheap enough to be in the kind of body spray section of Boots, but not expensive enough to be in John Lewis or what's it called, Selfridges. So anyway, so I end up just trying to get these partial bottles, and I just got this one because I've been looking at it and wanting to try it for ages. This is Truth by Calvin Klein. So hang on, I'm just going to swap these around and try not to blind you, because it's got this. See, the other thing is, every time I've seen this bottle, I've been like, that's a bit boring. And then it's I don't know if you can tell, it's got a really cool shape. Like, it's actually quite a sick bottle. Look at this. My husband saw this bottle and went, oh, that's cool. And I was like, that's exactly what I thought when I first got this. When it turned up, I was like, that is so much cooler than I was expecting. So anyway, this is a partial bottle of Truth by Calvin Klein. I got this on eBay. And I don't really know what I expected from this perfume, but it has been a wild ride. What to say about it. I'm going to read you the notes and then I'm going to talk about my experience with it. So I think this is from late 90s or early 2000s, this perfume. It certainly smells like that to me. And the notes are bamboo, clover, bergamot, vetiver, lemon and patchouli in the top. So it's got patchouli in the top. Now you know why I didn't want to spend full price. So middle notes, lily, peony, sandalwood, mimosa, silk, wood, blossom and blackberry in the mid. And then the base notes even are musk, vanilla and amber. I've tried some bamboo perfumes and they don't always work on me. Sometimes I get a really weird, like, animalic, strange, sweaty smell. I didn't get that at all with this. So this is like, maybe it's modern bamboo. Again, it might be an aroma chemical that doesn't work for me. But this one, I didn't have that problem. But this was really interesting because this is kind of described as a freshie. And there is something about this that is fresh. Gosh, it's a nightmare for fingerprints, though, this lid. It does have a freshly cut grass kind of smell, which I'm assuming is coming from that bamboo. And although I've never really thought about the smell of clover, I'm like, oh, yes, I think maybe what I'm smelling here is clover. And I really like it. Also, it weirdly reminds me of Dune from Dior. So I sprayed this out onto paper and I was like, oh, it definitely smells like a freshie, but at the same time, it doesn't smell like a freshie at all. And it smells vintage, but it doesn't smell vintage. It's almost like it's a mixture of a vintage, woody, classic Dune style perfume with something much more modern and fresh and transparent. And I was really confused about it. I was like, why am I thinking of Dune? Not the film, the perfume by Christian Dior. I am thinking of the film as well because I can't wait to see the second one. I loved the first one. But anyway, tangent. I went to have a look on Fragrantica, and interestingly enough, the very top comment said, this is like a relative of Dune. And I was like, no way. Okay, so it's not my imagination. Because I was looking for someone who said this smelled peppery, because I think this smells a bit peppery. But, I mean, it might be the patchouli. It might be that it's a peppery patchouli. And because it's in the top notes, it's really obvious. And that, for me, is a little bit of a struggle. But at the same time, I do like this perfume. So it's a confusing one. So what happened? I wore it to work. So I decanted a little bit into I wasn't going to drag this massive bottle to work. So I decanted a little bit into just a tiny little sprayer. This is a freshie. I'm going to work. I'll just spray lots because it's a freshie, right? When I tried it on my skin before I wore it for a full day, I was like, oh, this actually, I'm really aware I'm wearing this. Whenever I move my arm, I get this really nice smell. And then I'd smell it closer up and I'd be like, oh, there's that kind of pepperiness again. Not quite sure about this whole like woody, slightly patchouli, grassy, peppery smell. But then from far away, I was like, this is so pretty. I really like how I'm smelling. So I thought, it'll be fine. So I reckon I maybe did 10 sprays, and I sprayed some on my shirt. Too much. Way too much. This is a classic perfume from the kind of 90s, early 2000s in that you do not need much of it. Even though it's exactly the same with things like Noir. So Noir is, in its kind of general vibe, is kind of a kind of calming, soft, musky. It's got everything about it that would suggest it's a skin scent, except the scent bubble is massive and it lasts forever. And I found exactly the same thing with this. This lasted on me forever. It smelled incredibly strong and I was really regretting how much I'd sprayed on. And the whole way to work, I was like, oh no, I hope no one's annoyed by my perfume. I've put too much on. It's really obvious. It's like got that kind of Dune vibe, so it's probably a bit much. I had my mask on and I could still smell it really clearly. And I was like, oh no, I've really messed this one up. I was trying not to swear. So I was like, okay, I'm just maybe this isn't for me. I'm just going to get through the day and see how I feel about it. But probably I'm going to declutter it. And then, yeah, I reckon at about 12 o'clock or 11 or 12, once it had calmed down, I was like, oh, this is really pretty. And I feel like if I don't spray much of this on, it's going to be gorgeous. Like it's going to be my perfect kind of interesting, not obvious, not citrusy freshie. It's actually very pretty. I really like it. And so right at the end of the day before I left work, all I did was put a little bit between my wrists and that was it, just to top up that bit, and that was perfect. And also I just won't spray it on my clothes because it didn't really dry down to those base notes when it was on my clothes. It stayed being like patchouli, vetiver, bamboo. And there are citrus in the top of this, but I wouldn't describe it as a citrusy perfume. There's blackberry in the mid, which I think is slightly more of a fruity note going on here. But it's got, the clover is so pretty. The mimosa is really nice. I've no idea what silkwood blossom smells like, but it's pretty. But when it's really dried down on your skin, if you haven't oversprayed it, you do retain that kind of Dune style sandalwood. But you have the amber, the vanilla and the musk in the base that then becomes more skin scenty, slightly sweeter, a bit prettier, less grassy. So yeah, if I just go through this and don't like spray too much, I enjoy that transition because I like a grassy perfume. And I like a kind of fresh green perfume, but this is really interesting. So I think Truth is a really interesting perfume. And to be honest, I find that with quite a lot of the older Calvin Klein perfumes that I have, I think are really interesting perfumes and like quite original. But anyway, I've been talking about this one for ages because it's brand new to me, and I don't really see a huge amount of people talk about it. And when they do talk about it, they often just talk about how it's grassy. But I think this is actually quite musky. I think it's quite floral, and it's really, it doesn't, with the exception of having that kind of through line of having that Dune kind of smell, it's not really like anything I've smelt before in terms of the fresher elements. I think it's really interesting and really pretty. So yeah, that's that one. Talking about it for ages. You already, if you watch me every week, you'll know I was wearing this when I filmed my last one on Saturday, so I won't talk about it much. Oh my god, it's so pretty, so lush though, and it was still pretty cold. But I feel like probably this one will now be put to the side while the weather's a bit warmer. This is the intense version of Mon Guerlain. So it's like, I think it's called Mon Guerlain Eau de Parfum Intense. I think that's just what it's called, like pretty straightforward. Just push this over to the side a bit more because I've got 3 to go down here. So this is, it's exactly what it says. It's just a intense, it's not really intense, but it's an intense version of Mon Guerlain, and Mon Guerlain is like super fleeting. It's not like, the warmer the weather is, the better it seems to last. But I'd say the reason I always say just get Seductive Noir from Guess instead of Mon Guerlain, the original one, is because it doesn't last very long. So, you know, the reason that I bought then this one for myself on my birthday is because this one's stronger and it lasts longer. It's still not the longest lasting, but it's definitely noticeably stronger and lasts longer. But it is still almost exactly the same as the original Mon Guerlain. The difference I find here is just that it's far more vanillic, because there's 2 types of vanilla in this. The original one is like a nice mixture of tonka or coumarin and vanilla, so it's like that perfect kind of mixture. This one steps 1 foot into being more of a vanilla perfume. So this is lavender, mandarin orange and bergamot in the top, and then it's got Tahitian vanilla and Madagascar vanilla in the middle, with iris, jasmine, sambac and rose. Thankfully, again, jasmine, sambac, not too strong here. Base notes, coumarin, patchouli, licorice, benzoin, Australian sandalwood and white musk. I'd say maybe the patchouli and the licorice are slightly stronger in this one, but I think everything's just amped up. It really does feel like it's just a stronger concentration of the original, but with more vanilla and maybe just a little bit more spiky. You know, it's not quite as creamy smooth, but it lasts longer. That's why I wanted it, and it's totally lush and I love it. Yep. Oh, totally beautiful. So if you actually wanted a Mon Guerlain, this is the one I'd tell you to get. You know, this is like, it's just better value. That's all it is. It's not that I like it more than the original, because I don't. It's just that it's better value, and I do like a bit of a good value perfume. Right, what's next? Oh yeah, this little babe. Creamy Candy from Lush. So I was just in the mood, and I was like, oh, which one do I want to wear? Do I want to wear American Cream or maybe Snow Fairy? I wanted one of the ones that smells a bit pink to me, but I decided to go for Creamy Candy just because I haven't worn this one very much, because this was one of the community specials. Super pretty. This is probably again the last time I'll be wearing this until the weather gets colder, because this was on a cold day and then we moved into warmer weather, and like, this is going to be way too sweet for me to wear when it's actually warm. Look how wonky this is stuck on. Anyway, so Creamy Candy. They only tell you there's vanilla in this, but obviously that's just not really going to be possible. This has got, well, it's got some kind of perfume in it, so don't know what that is. It's got anise. What else? Yeah, it says vanilla absolute and anise alcohol. But there's definitely, I mean, it doesn't smell like vanilla. That's the thing. It just isn't just vanilla. There's no way. It smells... Someone said to me, actually, I was in the lift at work, and one of the members of security I was chatting to, I was laughing about something. I was like, oh, I'd just got into work and I'd taken out my... To be polite, I'd got in the lift, I'd taken out my earphones, and I I was listening to a comedy podcast and something really weird had just come on. So I took them out, but I hadn't stopped the podcast, and I was laughing, and I said, oh, I'm just going to stop this because I'm worried that you guys are going to think I'm mad, but I'm just listening to a comedy podcast and some weird heavy metal's just come on. And she said, oh, actually, I was just thinking that you smelled like Lush. I was laughing. I was like, yeah, I'm wearing a Lush perfume. And yes, this smells like Lush. Happily, it doesn't dry down to be harsh. It gets creamier and lusher as it dries down. This one starts off smelling almost exactly the same as Snow Fairy, and then it dries down to be more creamy, more candy-ish, more like vanilla-y. And at that point, not like not like Lush vanilla-y, because it hasn't got the florals, which is probably why it's so pretty. But it dries down to have a very similar dry down to American Cream, you know, which is like, I mean, you could almost describe American Cream as quite an interesting vanilla. That one smells like it's got candied violets and candied rose and candied lavender and like all this stuff. I think there might be sage in that one. I can't remember offhand, but this... So if you can't get this, which, you know, you will only be able to get it on eBay now, because for some reason Lush don't like to actually keep the stuff that people really want. I don't know why. They always make these like as limited editions, and then they keep other things that people don't seem to be particularly interested in, but you know, whatever. I'm only saying that because I really disliked the last perfume. I thought I really didn't like it, but this one, really pretty. If you can't get hold of this, honestly, I really just think you could get American Cream, or it's really easy now to get second-hand bottles of the body spray of Snow Fairy, because they're so popular at Christmas, and then people sell them on, and there's so many people selling them that you can get them for the same price that you'd buy them in Lush. Or, of course, you could just wait until it comes out again, because it comes out maybe like, it might even be before November that all the Snow Fairy stuff comes out. But I would say the best alternative to creamy candy is probably going to be American Cream. And it, you know, super pretty, really sweet, really girly, honestly smells totally pink. Really, really nice. Okay, what have I got? Oh, yeah, all right. I talked about my dupe of Pure Poison, which is, what's it called? Saffron Mamba. Yeah, I can't remember offhand, unfortunately, but it's not Jungle Cobra, it's something Mamba. But anyway, so that's the dupe I've got. It's really, really nice. I really like wearing that one. And I'd said I'd really interested in knowing what the elixir smells like, right? Can't get that in any kind of sample form. I can't find any, what's it called, dupes. I can't find any like obvious dupes of that one. And I was looking on eBay, and the thing is, I love the poison bottles. I really love them. With the exception of the Midnight Poison, because I don't like rose and patchouli together as perfumes. And I don't like Hypnotic Poison, but I do like I'd love to have a bottle of Tender Poison. I'm lucky enough to have a bottle of the actual original Poison, and I would love to have a bottle of Pure Poison. And I was like, oh, well, I could have a look and I could get a second-hand one, because I was laughing. I felt like I needed to explain to you, because I bought this on eBay as a partial bottle, and this is Pure Poison Elixir. What a beautiful bottle. Look at that. It's so gorgeous. I've been watching a few second-hand bottles of Elixir for ages, and I was also watching some of the second-hand bottles of just the original white cap version of Poison, Pure Poison. And I was like, well, I could do that. Maybe I could ask for a bottle of Pure Poison, even one of the new ones for Christmas or something, because I think they're about like £60-70, but they're for a 30ml. And I was like, no, I could probably get like a second-hand one for less than that, or I could get a better value one because I could get a bigger bottle. This just shows you how much I think about what I'm spending on perfumes. I was watching someone talk about Middle Eastern dupes, and she said, well, you might as well just try it. You might as well buy it. It's only $40. You've got nothing to lose. And I thought, ooh, $40 is like, I really have to think about spending £40. Oh, £40, I should say, for me, on anything. That's my near my upper limit. That's certainly my upper limit of buying like new stuff that you can just easily get. Like, I think this was like £40 in the sale. this, because it's a much bigger bottle, I think was about 50. I managed to get that one for. This was like a tenner. Do you know what I mean? But this one was about £66 or something, I think, when I ordered this. I'm forgetting because obviously I paid for postage as well. And I was like, I'm going to have to explain to everyone who's watching me that I've spent this much money on a bottle of perfume. Probably a lot of my subscribers are in the same mind frame as me, which is that spending £60 on a perfume is a lot of money. That's a lot of money. And then I watch other YouTubers and they're just like, £40, nothing. £100 affordable. £300, yeah, I just bought it. I blind bought it. So sorry if I sound like I'm being apologetic, but I really wanted to smell this and I was quite sure I'd like it, and I was right. And the reason this is so nice, and I was so sure, is that the reviews I've seen of Pure Poison Elixir say basically it smells just like Pure Poison, but it's creamier and it's sweeter, and it's kind of got a softer, less cleanly smell about it. So it's a little bit less fresh laundry and a little bit of a touch of gourmand. And I was like, what I love about Pure Poison is the kind of creaminess of it, and it's like it does smell clean and fresh, but it's super musky, and it's like I just really fell in love with this scent. And I smelled a woman wearing it recently again. Like, it's really an obvious scent. I don't mean that in a like I'm not being snarky, like, oh, it's obvious. It's like, it's just when I smell it, I really know now. I'm like, oh, that's Pure Poison. So I was like, instead of spending 60 odd quid to get just a normal bottle of Pure Poison, if I can get this partial bottle of the elixir, I might as well do that. And I did. So these normally come with like these cool sprayers that have these like things on, but all of the secondhand bottles being sold that still have those are more expensive than if you just buy it with this screw top. And so I've just poured a tiny bit of this into one of those little plastic sprayers so that I can spray it on. And it is absolutely exactly what I said. It's Pure Poison, but it's a slightly creamier, slightly sweeter, slightly smoother version. It's not... This is another one that's really hard to describe, because in the same way with actual Pure Poison, it's like, okay, it's not like a beast, but it is actually really noticeable, even though, because it's quite a clean and nice musky scent, it's not like it's not obvious in like the way that if you were wearing Chanel No. 5, someone would be like, damn, that's a strong perfume. But this one definitely is, because I've got a little sample as well. I haven't just got the dupe, I've got a sample of the actual Pure Poison you buy now. It's ever so slightly stronger and it lasts slightly longer. That's what I'd say about this. But it's not a massive difference. It's not like it's like a super intense version. It's just a creamier, sweeter version. So the notes that are in this version are... Let me find. Petit grain, orange and green mandarin in the top, and you can really smell the fruits in the top of this when you first put it on. Orange blossom, jasmine, sambac in the heart, and then sandalwood, amber, almond, vanilla and cocoa absolute. That's not from Fragrantica. I've looked around to look at the different notes, and most places I don't know if it even says almond on Fragrantica, but most places do actually list that along with cocoa absolute in other sites. So it's totally lovely. I really like it. You can definitely just get normal Pure Poison. You can definitely just get the dupe that I've got. I reckon I'm just going to take that dupe to work, because at the moment, the perfumes I've got at work, I've got one freshie, which is my tomato leaf blackcurrant, because that used to be my signature, so I've got a bottle of at work. And then I've got one that smells like a dupe for... Yes, I Am, and then I've got by Cacharel, and then I've got one that smells like a dupe for Prerogative by Britney Spears. So I haven't really got any that I would consider to be like meeting appropriate, like quite serious and chic. Like, I've got a nice freshie for warm weather, a nice clean freshie, and then I've got two really sweet syrupy ones. So I might take that dupe, my saffron dupe, in with me to work, because I think that's one I could just chuck on any time. Like, if I the chance of me forgetting to put a perfume on, or if I wear a sample I don't like or something, or I just suddenly am wearing something a bit silly and in the afternoon I've got a serious meeting, then it would be great to throw that on. So yeah, this is delicious, and this one's going to come back to play in a minute, so I'm going to have to speed up because honestly, the speed of which I'm going, I'm talking for ages. This is going to be a long one. I'm sorry, guys. All right. So then I wore this. So Eau Duelle, because I also have a second-hand partial bottle. It's actually a 50ml, I think, and it was only half full. So I got that one for, I think I got that one for £30, which for Eau Duelle is amazing. So so this is the Eau de Parfum version because I have the Eau de Toilette, and I just wanted to try out the Eau de Parfum of Eau Duelle. I couldn't smell this one in store because they didn't have a tester. They had a tester of the one I already had, but they didn't have a tester of this. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to order from eBay a little sample. Okay, let's put you there, Sunny Jim. And I absolutely hammered through it. This was a 2ml. It was pretty full because I'm not really sure that this smells much stronger or lasts much longer than the EDT. I don't really think that there's much of a difference in terms of the performance, which seems a bit weird. Although my husband thinks this one smells a bit stronger, but I don't think that he thinks that green notes smell very strong generally. But I think green notes are really obvious. So I don't know. That might just be a difference with how we smell things. But I also got him to try this on, and I got him to put one on each arm, so because we did that last night. So it's absolutely delicious. I would love to have a bottle of this. It's not massively different. They are clearly the same perfume, right? In terms of like the main elements and the overall scent profile here. They're very, very similar. So this one is bourbon vanilla, incense, cypriol oil, and pink pepper. So this one, I've seen people say it's more vanillic, but I actually think that I feel like the vanilla feels very, very similar in both of them. It's just that the green notes in the EDT change the overall feel of it because this is a little bit more smoky. So it's very vanillic. It's the same kind of vanilla, but it's just got a bit of smokiness. It's sort of slightly related to Baby Cat, I'd say. But I've already thought that because I think the vanilla in both Eau Duelles and what I think is a good alternative to these if you want a more affordable one, which is what's it called, Lalique Le Parfum. I can't wait to wear that one again. I have really discovered, and this is the thing, I don't mind spending money when I know that I really fall in love with something, because I genuinely, for a long time, and even if you look at any of my really early videos, I will say constantly, I don't like vanilla perfumes. And I genuinely believed that that was true. I thought I had a real problem with vanilla. I don't have a problem with vanilla. What I seem to have a problem with is very floral vanillas or very fruity vanillas, and patchouli and vanilla. Unless it's Lord of Misrule, that's like the only patchouli vanilla that I'm really into. What I like is green vanillas. I really like unusual green vanillas. And Eau Duelle, in both its formats, are absolutely gorgeous. But Lalique Le Parfum is equally gorgeous. It's considerably cheaper. It also has a beautiful bottle. But in a way, because that one actually does have some florals, not enough to bother me. I don't really smell the jasmine that people say they can smell in that one. But I do get a slight fluffiness from, what's it called? The heliotrope that's in it. And I think that makes it slightly more feminine in a way than Eau Duelle. But anyway, so my husband and I, we both tried one on each arm. And he said he preferred the Eau de Parfum because he liked the smokiness more than he liked the greenness. But I will tell you this. He did not compliment me on the day that I wore this. But the day that I wore the EDT was the day he messaged me when I left the house to tell me that I smelled delicious because I'd left a trail. So there you go. I think on him, and interestingly, it smelled totally different on him. Not this one, but the EDT. The EDT on him really, really brought out the green notes in a way that was much stronger on him. And it had a slightly more bitter edge, I'd say, than it does on my skin. On my skin, when we were smelling it on me, the vanilla was stronger than the green. You should, if you're interested in that kind of thing, you should watch the Claire Smith video about perfume on skin and like what affects it, because it's such a good video. But anyway, I love it, and if I ever see a bottle of this that's like under 60 quid, I will definitely be trying to snap it up, because I would very happily have both of them. This one if I feel smoky, because it's just, I guess it's easier and cheaper to get hold of than Baby Cat. I did tell my husband, I was like, if you're ever rolling in it and you want to buy me something really special, I'd love Baby Cat. Not to sound like everyone else, and I would never pay for that much money. It's like 170 or 180 pounds or something. But I would love to have that perfume or a really good dupe of it, because that is a fantastic smoky vanilla. And as it turns out, that's my kind of vanilla. All right, so let's move on. I went to Selfridges. I went to Marks and Spencer's first, though, so that's the first thing on my list. I don't have a little sample thing because I left it because I was so disappointed. I went to smell a perfume by Marks and Spencer's called Sea Salt and Neroli, and I went to smell that because I had read on the internet that it is a dupe for Jo Malone Wood Sage and Sea Salt. Now, Wood Sage and Sea Salt, I went and sniffed it again recently. It's super pretty, it's beautiful, easy to wear, light, like just gorgeous ambrette, musky yumminess. It's so weird. Now, I know everyone smells something like different when they smell perfumes, but I did not at all get Wood Sage and Sea Salt from Sea Salt and Neroli. No, not at all. Sea Salt and Neroli from Marks and Spencer's was super, super sweet. And I think anyone who has tried or owned Wood Sage and Sea Salt, it's not sweet. Like, it's one of the joys about it. It's not a sweet perfume. It has that sweetness that you get from a beautiful musky skin scent, but it's not like sweetened, and it's definitely not got a neroli feel in it at all. So yeah, I genuinely, I smelled, I thought I'd picked up the wrong one. I had to check it. I was like, this is not the one that everyone says smells like Wood Sage and Sea Salt, is it? Doesn't it? Definitely, in my humble opinion, it smells bugger all like Wood Sage and Sea Salt. So yeah, I went there and I was disgusted. So then I crossed the road and I went to Selfridges. So let's see. Let's start with this one. The first thing I'm going to say, and it did make me sad, is that this is the first time I've ever been into Selfridges and the entire perfume hall smell like tar. That aroma chemical is in everything nowadays, and it was everywhere, and I could smell it everywhere. And it was making me very, very sad. It's like an amberwood, whatever it's called. It's an absolute nightmare. The only hall that didn't just entirely smell like that was the one that was kind of half makeup, half perfume, and that's where they've got Kayali and Phlur, and a few other kind of smaller things. They didn't have the new Kayali there. I think they often have that as a special at Harrods, so it doesn't turn up for quite a while in Selfridges, but I went to check anyway. They didn't have the sugar rock candy, whatever it's called, which I was quite interested in smelling. Not that I'm ever going to, I mean, the chance of me ever buying a Kayali, because I've never found one that I want, really. But anyway, I went to the newly built Guerlain little stall, because they only had like a tiny one for a while, because they used to have a massive section in Selfridges, and then they were doing some building work, and I haven't been able to really smell much there, except for their what's their really expensive line called, the one with Gourmand, Fève Gourmand is it called, or Coquine, whatever that chocolatey one's called. But anyway, it was kind of back, and I was looking around. They had all the Aqua Allegorias, they had all that expensive range, they had a couple of other bits and pieces, and the lady said to me, "You looking for anything in particular?" And I was like, "Oh, I was looking to see if you had the Le Petit Robe Noir, the intense version, the one I checked, the one with the blueberry, right?" And she was like, "Oh," so she opened a drawer, pulled out, surprisingly, the blue bottled version. Now, I thought they'd changed the bottle, but yeah, weirdly, in Selfridges, they've still got the blue bottle and not the kind of purpley one that seems to have replaced the intense. So I don't know what's going on there. But anyway, so that's what this is. The notes in this, and the reason I wanted to smell it, entirely the reason I wanted to smell it, is because it's got cotton candy and blueberry in the top. It's also got raspberry, cassis and bergamot in the top, and then in the mid there's Bulgarian rose, jasmine and orange blossom. In the base there's vanilla, patchouli, sandalwood and white musk. Now, the original Petite Robe Noir I've always thought smelled like Lolita Lempicka, but not as nice. But it's that very similar kind of DNA going on. And I feel exactly the same way about this, except when you first spray this, you do get a beautiful and obvious blueberry and cotton candy. And it is glorious. But then, as soon as it dries down, it just smells like Le Petit Robe Noir. I don't particularly like the way that the patchouli is so strong in Le Petit Robe Noir. And I find it a little bit too much of a fruit chewy in comparison with Lolita Lempicka, which I think really doesn't quite fall into that category. It's much more musky. It's got the violet. It's kind of the more original and interesting version. I think it's been around for longer than Le Petit Robe Noir, because I was really, really young, I think, when Lolita Lempicka first came out, but I remember when Le Petit Robe Noir came out, because I wanted to go and test it, and I was like, oh no. So I'm not mad for this. I think it opens up beautifully, but then I think it loses what's really special about it, which is the cotton candy and the blueberry. And what I would genuinely recommend, is to just, like, if you're interested in that, because you can get this so much cheaper, I think Lolita Lempicka Mon Premier is the super, super intensely sugary sweet version of Lolita Lempicka. So this one, it doesn't have blueberry, but it's got loads of cherry. It's got praline, which is really a lot of praline, lots of vanilla, and slightly less of the kind of aniseedy smells, you know. But it's, oh God, smelling it in comparison to what's left on that stick, oh my God. It's so delicious, and I quite regularly see the 30ml bottles of this for about £20-25. So you can definitely get this. Or obviously, if you just want the best version of any of this particular kind of perfume, then the Le Parfum, the original in the original bottle, that's the one to go for. But if what you like about Little Petite Robe Noir Intense is how syrupy and sweet it is, then Mon Premier is going to be your girl. But yeah, I mean, this one, it's got cherry and licorice. It's got praline and tonka and musk and vanilla. A bit of violet, but it's definitely more cherry, so it's really fruity. Oh my God. I was going to declutter this one, and now I'm smelling it. I'm like, oh, I love this one so much. I love them all. I love Lolita Lempicka. With the exception of their jasmine perfumes, I think I really genuinely like all of their perfumes. All right. So then, what have I got next? I smelt 4 things. Okay. Phlur. So I went to smell... Oh, it's upside down. I went to smell Phlur Father Figure, because I've seen people talking about this one. I really like Missing Persons, but again, it's not one that I'd want to spend lots of money on, because it's quite a very light, musky skin scent, and I have quite a few beautiful musks. But I thought I'd smell this one. I've seen Amy Glam particularly talking about this one. This is like a unisex sort of woody fig scent to me. So this is fig, water lily and cassis, middle notes of orris root, iris and jasmine, base notes musk, Madagascar vanilla, sandalwood and patchouli leaf. And when I was comparing this to all the other things I was smelling, it smelled quite masculine, but when I was away from Selfridges, there's definitely a sweetness in here. You get a little bit of that Madagascar vanilla coming through in the base, and then you get a little bit of the fruity fig. It has got a noticeable fig in it, but it's not like Philosophos levels of fig, you know, it's quite subtle. It does have a nice musky dry down. It's that same kind of vibe as Missing Persons, but it's much more masculine leaning, I'd say, than Missing Persons. Missing Person? I think I'm pluralizing that. But anyway, really pretty. I liked it. I wouldn't necessarily want to buy it. Again, the price is kind of a lot. This one's lasting a bit longer than Missing Person on the strip. It's really pretty though, and I can understand why people like it. And I say pretty, what I mean, it's like fresh and it's quite comforting. But what I will say, if you want a more affordable kind of alternative, it's not identical, but CK1 Gold, which I think I talked about when I tried the sample, and then when I saw this for cheap, I was like, I've got to have it because I've been thinking about it quite a lot. This is if I spray it out. Woo! Woo! A beautiful unisex, lovely fig perfume. This one doesn't list musk, but I feel like this has a musky dry down, and that's why I like it. It's definitely not, it doesn't have the same sweetness in the dry down, like the actual kind of slightly vanillic sweetness that you get with Father Figure, but it's beautiful. It's definitely got a noticeable fig. It's got a woodiness to it. This has a little bit of florals, a little bit of kind of aromatic scent to it. It's got fig, bergamot on sage in the top, neroli, jasmine, violet in the mid, and then vetiver, gaiac wood, and patchouli in the base. So it does have some crossovers. It's the same kind of feel, is what I would say. I don't think it smells identical, but it's definitely the same kind of feel. If you don't want to spend Father Figure style amounts of money, but you like the idea of a unisex fig freshie, this is the one to go for. It's really, really nice. Okay. Then we've got, I smell another Diptyque. They, weirdly though, they sprayed this on a different card. This is not the one I smelt. The one I smelt was an EDT, and it was Ofresia. I'm not sure how you're supposed to say it, but it's the Ofresia perfume. The notes are listed on it as just being pepper in the top, black pepper by the looks of it, mid notes of freesia, base notes of woodsy notes. And I am telling you, this is another one, if I ever find a cheaper bottle, I will get it. I don't know why, but this reminded me of my childhood. Really reminded me of something from my childhood. Very possibly reminded me of flowers in my mum's garden, because it smelt like the most innocent, natural, pretty, tiny flowers. That's what it smelled like. Really beautiful, blossomy spring smell. I've read some really interesting reviews of this. Some people get really too much pepper. Some people get too much wood. I don't get that at all, and I can be quite fussy about both of those things. To me, it just smells like a beautiful, gentle, natural floral. It smells so petally. It's almost like I could feel the petals. And again, I don't entirely know that it smells exactly like freesia does in nature, but it smells like spring flowers generally in nature. It's so pretty. I got my husband to smell it next. He smelled something else first, and then he smelled that one, and he went, "Oh, that's the pretty one." And he doesn't even like florals. So, Ofresia, absolutely gorgeous. Really loved that one. Okay, and then this. This was my most interesting thing. So it's actually sprayed on an Idol thing because it's the only card I could find. But this is actually Maison Lancôme Jasmines Marzipan. Now, I wanted to smell this one because when I was looking at genre perfumes, they had a dupe for Donna Aqua. I was looking at what else they had dupes for. I was actually looking for the other Maison Lancômes. Is it Roses Berberanza? Or one of the roses ones. There's one that's got rose, pistachio, it looks very syrupy, and Lavande Trianon, I think it's called. There were a few that I really, really wanted to smell little dupes of, but they had Jasmine's Marzipan. They didn't have those other two, but they had Jasmine's Marzipan. And I was like, that sounds really interesting. I know I'm really fussy about jasmine, but I like the idea of jasmine and marzipan together. That would be interesting to see what that smelled like. They have this in Selfridges, so it's obviously still part of the collection. Probably reformulated. I don't know whether it's the same that it always has been, but this one, I smelt it and I was like, oh, that is pretty. I also smelt it and thought, weird, I would not have necessarily guessed that this is jasmine. I mean, I can kind of smell that it's jasmine, but it doesn't smell just like jasmine, if that makes sense. So this is listed as being jasmine, sambac, jasmine, almond wood, musk, bourbon vanilla, cashmere, and sandalwood. And I was like, that's really interesting that there's no other florals in here, because it definitely doesn't give me a vibe of just being jasmine. There's something else going on here. And then I was like, oh, I recognise it. I've got this perfume. And I was smelling it and I was like, what does this smell like? And I was like, okay, I'm just going to put this in my pocket. I came home, I smelt it again, and I was like, oh, it smells like pure poison. It smells like pure poison. It just smells like pure poison, and I was really surprised, and I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. And then now I've got this one, it smells more like this, right? So Jasmine's Marzipan smells like the elixir because it smells like pure poison, but it smells like the dry down of pure poison with kind of a little bit more sweetness. It's like a little bit more delicate, sweet and creamy, if you see what I mean. It's like pure poison, a little bit less of that freshness, a little bit more gourmand. And then I went to look on Fragrantica, and this is a Dominic Ropion perfume, and he was one of the team that made Pure Poison. So this is unsurprisingly basically the same as this. Now, if you consider that this has other florals in it that kind of balance out the jasmine, it's really pretty. So here's what I'm here to say. If you just want the most affordable version of Jasmine's Marzipan, you could just get a dupe of Pure Poison, because you can get Pure Poison dupes from lots of different houses, you know, and inspired by, and just stuff that kind of smells similar. If you want Jasmine's Marzipan, but you don't want to spend even the eBay prices on Jasmine's Marzipan, which is still like 140 quid, I got this for like 60 something, I think. So you could actually get Pure Poison Elixir for less. This is not a really strong perfume. It's delicate, it's pretty, it's sweet, it's very similar to this. It's not like a beast mode. And also, if you can't get hold of this and you don't want to spend the money for a real bottle of this, Genre have a dupe of this, and if it's any good, it will also smell like this, because these smell incredibly similar, you know? Yeah, this is like the dry down of this without the orangey top, without the fruity top, you know? It's so pretty. It's like Dominic Ropion's just gone, oh, I did produce a really beautiful perfume. Let me just make this a bit more modern to go with the gourmand leaning stuff that everyone likes now. And this is what he's come up with. And it's absolutely beautiful. It's very pretty. I'd love to have it. I love the bottle. But I mean, it's insanely expensive. So I'm never going to own this, you know. And again, unless for some reason someone's selling like a tiny bit in one of the bottles on eBay, it's never going to be mine. But if I ever get a Genre order, which I probably will at some point, to get the Donna Aqua oil and the dupe to test that out and get back to you, I will definitely be ordering the Jasmine's Marzipan one as well to try out. It's super pretty, but there's some people who really have given this negative reviews, and it's generally because they're like, it doesn't smell like marzipan, it doesn't even really smell like jasmine, but I think that's why I like it. It's more delicate, more interesting. It's not like, it's jasmine-y, but it's not like, whoa, that's jasmine, you know? It's pretty, but it's like, it's its own thing. It definitely smells in the way that Pure Poison to me smells like a real mixture of gardenia and jasmine and like other florals. This smells like a mixture too, despite what the notes say. But yeah, it's really beautiful, generally beautiful. Please don't be confused by the Adol thing on here. But Jasmine's Marzipan from Maison Lancôme is absolutely lush. But yeah, it's pretty much just a slightly gourmand Pure Poison, which I was not expecting at all. But there you go. It's really gorgeous. Oh, I've been talking for so long. I've reached an hour. Oh my goodness. I'm going to have to edit this down, guys, because otherwise people are going to be bored to death. So this was my week. I hope everyone else had a lovely week. Tell me what you've been wearing. Tell me if any of you have smelt the elixir or if you've smelt Jasmine's Marzipan. I would really like to have a conversation with anyone who knows a really good alternative to Eau Moheli, so I could suggest that as a good, like, affordable alternative. And I really want to chat about Truth by Calvin Klein. So if you guys have got Calvin Klein Truth, like, what do you think about it? What does it smell like to you? Do you get like the peppery patchouli in the top? And what do you think it smells like when it dries down? Because it's an enigmatic one, you know? There's something going on that's kind of interesting. And yeah, like I said, in real life, this is a much more impressive bottle than it looks like when it's in pictures. I just think it's so much cooler. I just really like the shape. I think it's really beautiful. But anyway, all right, guys, I am going to sign off because I've honestly been going on for so long. I don't know how you put up with it. All right, bye, guys.